Rev up your engines! If you're looking for a big truck, why not get a 2000 International like this guy did? Big isn't big enough? He only paid $3 grand for this thing. Now, if you want to tow stuff, well, this hitch is rated at 20,000, but this thing could probably easily pull 30,000 if you wanted. Let's check under the hood. Now, this is an International engine. It's only got 195 horsepower, but it's got 525 pound-feet of torque. They got a lot of pulling power. They're not for speed. Oh, he's got this thing up to 25-pound boost. So this baby can pull. And it does get 8 miles a gallon. Pull a lot of stuff. That's what these are for, pulling. Originally, this thing was a tow truck, and then the guy cut the bed. It was a monster pickup truck. It's pretty cool. Now, considering that a cab and chassis for one of these things is like $90,000 new, I think you got a pretty good deal for $3 grand. There's a lot of times you can get these Internationals, and if you check it out, you can see. Got regular old disc brakes. This isn't an all air brake system. If you know what you're doing, since it also has big rotors in the back, unfortunately this one's in New York State, so he has to register it as commercial. If he was in Tennessee, he could register it as a private vehicle and save a whole bunch of money. Now, if you want a serious big truck, forget Fords and Chevys. Get one of these Internationals. Strangely enough, this was like a kid's toy truck. He bought it when he was 14 years old. He couldn't even drive it, but he wanted a big truck, so he went out and got it. So let's take a listen to it starting up. Chrome exhaust, check it out. Now, it used to have 250-gallon tanks. One rotted out, so it only has one. He doesn't go long distance in it, so it doesn't matter. With the 50 gallons, oh, he could probably go well over 200 miles, so it's got a decent range still. You can see everything inside one of these babies. Got the old CB radio going there, got his camera, and believe it or not, he just fixed the air conditioning. And a lot more gauges than you're gonna see in a regular car. You got transmission temperature, charging, water temperature, oil pressure, volts, amps. You got all kinds of stuff on these. Now, these things ride like what? A truck. You got leaf spring suspension here. It's solid, but let's take it for a ride and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Now, we're gonna take the trailer off so I have a little more fun driving. Take it for a drive. It is an automatic transmission now, and it turns pretty good too, because like I said, they cut the back and shortened it up. This thing actually turns even a little bit better than that Hummer H2 video I did, and that thing could do circles. Now, talk about being high in the sky, and like I said, they're bumpy on these things. You got a leaf spring suspension on a big truck. The cameras are shaking. Now, this thing is 9,600 pounds empty. Let's see what it does when we take off. And yes, it does have crank windows, but they still crank. Let's see what this 195 horsepower can do. Sounds kind of like a school bus. Coincidentally, many of them have this engine in them. But it goes. It's not like it's a complete turd. A day at the beaches in the big International. Yes, it's been shortened, but it sure is a big toy. And it really can turn on a dime. Of course, this was all added on. It didn't come that way. That's why it turns so good, because it's been shortened up. But you run a real head turner, you can't beat a truck like this. How many guys have something like this they can drive around with? Pulling their bass boat, maybe, if they want. These International diesel engines, they can last a long time. Yeah, they don't have much horsepower. He said the top speed he can really get going is about 70 if he's redlining the tank as far as it can go. But just cruising a normal 60, it can go a long way. You can pull a lot of weight with it. For $3,000, hey, you can't go wrong. And who knows? If the flood is coming, you can hook your arc up to this thing and go for smooth sailing. And talk about a handy vehicle. Where do you see what he towed over here with? Well, here it comes. They just picked this thing up. It's a 1977 Chrysler Newport, when Chrysler actually made good cars. Maybe one of the last decent ones. It's almost all original, and he picked this baby up for, you're not gonna believe this, $2,500. Now, yes, this is when they started all that anti-pollution crap. Here's anti-pollution crap routing, and it has that stupid lean burn system. You just got it. You can take it off if you want to, really. It's got the stock 404 barrel. You can do whatever you want with it. If it was me, I'd throw it off. I'd put an Edelbrock on it, and I'd put a different ignition system. But it doesn't run bad the way it sits today. Now, as you can see, it's got the old V compressor. Now, it doesn't work because it's out of gas, but it still spins. So all you'd have to do is fill fill it up. Back in the day when nobody cared about the price of gas. And people drove around in land yachts with living room couches. It's even got kind of the couch decor in it, look. And those back seats. There was a lot of room in these things. They served many purposes in their day. And let's check out the cavernous trunk. There's a lot of room in these things. Many were used for nefarious purposes. If the car hung out in New York and New Jersey, and hey, it's still got the old white wall tires on it. Check it out. And the original hubcaps. But of course, even in these days, luxury cars had hand crank windows. Remember that, people? But these old steel cars. Listen to those doors. They are solid steel. And of course, it still smells like a Chrysler 400. They waft a certain odor, and that hasn't changed either. Just listen to that quiet power. Look, it says the door is ajar. They look like doors to me. This car has nothing to do with Chrysler, Fiat, or Stellantis. This is an actual Chrysler. Now, yes, they are land yachts. You don't drive them as much as you sail them. You point and then figure, it's gonna follow in that direction eventually. These things are smooth, big steering wheel. You're floating down in a flying carpet in one of these things. And yeah, not the most responsive steering. That's what these things weren't about. These things were about riding on your own flying carpet. So here we go with the 400 cubic inches. Let's see what this thing can do. And away we go. You can hear it humming. It doesn't exactly break your seat off, but you know how much this thing weighs. This is a heavy car, and it gets going and cruises. You gotta hold on to the steering wheel though, or you'll be sailing away. $2,500 for this. What a deal he got. But check it out, this car was made in the 70s. Does it shake? No. This is their idea of safety. Instead of super hard plastic, it's only semi-hard plastic. It does have seat belts, 2-point seat belts too, not just the lap belts. They had some safety in them. Mainly the safety was volume. They weigh a lot, they got a lot of kinetic energy. They hit something small, they'll push it out of the way. And look at that chrome. Chrome everywhere. And it's original chrome. So this Newport actually came from New York State. You think they're all rust buckets? Think again. The bottom's relatively clean. It even kind of surprised me here in Rhode Island. I thought they'd all be rust buckets. $2,500, man. He got one solid deal, proving that his truck and trailer was a wise investment. They can go all over the place and pick up things now. So if you're thinking of something out of the ordinary, think outside the box. Maybe an International, maybe an old Newport. I kind of agree with them. With all these modern cookie cutter cars, you pay a ton of money and you're getting what everybody else has. Use your brain, a little bit of skullduggery, got the price down on this quite a bit. You can have a lot of fun for a little bit of money. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Mohammed117 says, windshield scratches. My truck windshield has scratches that causes glaring. I know the wiper rubbed it. I'm putting new wipers on, but how can I fix it without replacing the windshield? Well, here's the problem. The glass on your windshield is super hard. If it's scratched with metal, you really can't fix it correctly. Now, if you want to try, if you're a gambling man, go buy one of those windshield polishing kits that comes with 3 different types of polishes, rough, medium, and fine. Do the whole thing, maybe it can help it some. But from my experience, that glass is so hard, if metal scratched it, you're not gonna be able to get rid of it. Or I've seen some guys use power tools and do it. They got rid of the scratch, but then the windshield was so warped that things looked weird when they were looking through the windshield, which is worse than the scratches that it had in the first place. You wanna prevent scratches. I mean, you could try one of those kits, be my guest, but I've tried them, and on deep scratches from metal on windshield wipers that went down to the metal, it's hopeless. You can't really get rid of those things. The glass is too hard, and it's too thick, and too much would have to be polished off of it. Another Toyota loyalist says, I'm looking at a RAV4 with a scary history. I'm buying a used 2017 RAV4 made in Canada. It had a Toyota service record that said transmission fluid flush completed prior to service. Refill plug was loose and not properly tightened. Transmission fluid level was 1 quart low prior to flush completed. Test drove it. Transmission had a code P0776, P2714, P28. I would never take a chance with buying a car that had transmission codes because that particular year, RAV4, some of them did have transmission problems anyway, and adding that it was 1 quart low then, it might have been even lower before. I would kind of walk from that myself. It might last, but it might not. And when you price what it costs to do a tranny job on those, you didn't say if it was 2 or 4-wheel drive. Let's say it's 4-wheel drive because you're in Canada. It could cost a fortune to rebuild that transmission. I'd walk on that one. I'd say that's a deal killer, and I'd look for another vehicle. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.